up your engine! Now many people are looking for a good, used, four-door luxury sedan. So I'm going to show you this 2007 Toyota Avalon that pretty much fits most people's ticket. Now this 2007 Avalon, known as the fancy man's Camry, can be a great car. This one's 14 years old. Now you do see cracks here, but that's not the paint. That's one of those stupid plastic bras that somebody stuck on. If you look underneath it, the paint is fine. This is the plastic. This is another reason I tell people don't put these things on. They fade away and they look like crap. A ding here and there looks a lot better than this because the paint underneath is still in good shape. And this is the Grandma Special. The woman inherited it from Grandma. Still in good shape? That was one grandma that wasn't running into things. A lot of times they'll have a zillion bash. It's got a little scrape here, but I mean, hey, they got the car for free, so you can't complain. These are known for luxury and comfort. The leather seats, still in decent shape. Toyota puts good leather in their stuff. And as you look inside, typical little old lady's car. Everything's clean. No one ever sat in the back seat. And look at the room in the back seat. These babies had room. They were not small vehicles. And ditto for the trunk when we go in the back. These things had humongous trunks in them. As you pop it open, look at that. Just keeps going back. There's all kinds of room in these things. And what's under the hood? A solid, reliable Toyota V6 engine. Got ABS. A really nice package. The engine in this thing has 268 horsepower. And it's infinitely reliable. It's got a 6-speed automatic transmission that's equally as reliable. And when we look inside, this baby's only got 92,339 miles on it. And as we start it up, typical Toyota. Starts right up. Put on the AC. What does it have? Freezing cold AC. As I said, this is basically a fancy Camry. The Avalon. Listen to that engine. It's just purring away. No clanging, clattering, in excellent shape. It'd be a great car to buy used, and my customer just inherited. So, you might say, Scotty, if it's such a great car, what's it doing at your shop? Well, they had taken it to a garage, where they gave it an estimate of $4,300 worth of work that it needed. They did approve removing and replacing the idler pulling the belt, of which they got ripped off for $503. Well, that's way too much of that job. The idler pulley's in front of the engine. Not that hard of a job, but check it out. When you look at the edge of the fan belt, you can see there's serrations on it. It's not perfectly clean. It's got chips coming off of it. It is a new belt, because I can see the number and it's clean. But when they installed it, they didn't install it correctly. And they ripped edges of it. For all that money, they didn't even do a good job. And heck, I can get a pulley for this thing for 80 bucks. The belt cost me 30. Takes me less than an hour to do. It is not a $530 job. But that's the tip of the iceberg. Much of the rest of this work doesn't need to be done. It says, remove and replace lower control arms. $3,050. Now, when I went out of the car and inspected them, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bent. The rubber bushings aren't worn out, and they say they need all 4 of them. When I went in the back and checked, same thing. There are no worn bushings. Nothing was bent. It tracks good. It doesn't pull. It doesn't clunk when you go over bumps. It doesn't thump as you corner. There's nothing wrong with them. The only thing with this is, unfortunately, this is an older couple who inherited a car from an even older person. And guess what? Garage is just trying to rip them off. It's unfortunate, but I see it all the time. Another rip-off. It said it needs spark plugs. No, it doesn't. I took one out. It's still got tons of life on it because they got these fancy iridium spark plugs. They can go through 300,000 miles. This thing's only got like 80,000 miles on it. And they wanted $579 to change the spark plugs. Now, they are harder to get to, but it's not a $579 job. Again, the last time I did this same exact engine, it took me about 45 minutes. The spark plugs, even the most expensive ones you can get, are like $18 a piece, times 6, plus, an hour's work. That's not $579. But it doesn't need doing anyway. They're going to charge 89 bucks to change the air filter. Come on now. The air filter's right here. It has 2 clips. It pops up and you put another one on. It's not a big deal. Not sad that I see this all the time, and especially with older people. Mechanics just take advantage of older people. They think, God, they don't know anything about cars. Look at this car. They got it from their mother. She didn't know anything about cars. They don't know anything about cars. Let's see how much money we can get out of their pockets. Now, as we go inside, I did notice that the check engine light is on. What the old scan tool says. We'll start her up. Now it's doing its thing. Now it does have a code P0441 for EZAP emission problem. Just those emissions evaporation systems for ionized pollution. And it also has P0455 evap emission system leak. Gross leak. So, this car was owned by a little old lady. Let's check out the gas cap. We'll pop it open. Lo and behold, look at that. It's loose. You have to keep turning them until they lock. They got a leak, it causes that stupid code. No big deal. A loose gas cap. See that all the time. I'm surprised the guys didn't see that when it charged you $500 to fix the leak. So I'll turn off the key, then turn it on again and erase the code. Erase code. Yes. Yes. Now it's erasing the codes. And as you can see, they're gone, so let's take it for a ride. Well, the first thing you'll notice is how smooth this car is. It may be 14 years old, but man, it is smooth. Doesn't make much noise, even though the struts are all original. There's a nice solid feel to it. Let's see what kind of power it's got left. We'll floor it. Man, this thing still has a ton of power. Look at that, burning out. Smooth shifting transmission. This car might have been owned by a grandmother, but man alive, it's still got a lot of guts left to it. And as you'll notice, it doesn't clunk, bump, it tracks straight. They tried to sell her an alignment and all 4 lower control arms. What a bunch of BS. This thing really doesn't need anything done to it at all. Got lots of speed for passing. Still handles and rides quite well. This is a great car that unfortunately the older people who inherited were about to get ripped off big time by an inscrutable mechanic. Really, if the control arms are worn, it would not go straight with no hand on the wheel on this bumpy road. Let me tell you, that just irks me that this garage is so crooked to these older people. But I assume it wasn't just older people. I assume they were equal opportunity rip-offs. And they're just as much rip-off into young people, middle-aged people. Hey, once a crook, generally, always a crook. And sure, they shouldn't have put that stupid plastic cover over the front, the car bra, to keep the paint from getting chipped, because now it's baked on, and if you take it off, it'll probably look different than the paint underneath, because it's been on there so long. And this probably has faded more than this, so it would look uneven. But it really looks horrible with this stupid plastic stuff. So don't do it yourself. Better to have a few chips on your paint than this horrible cracked mess. And I know the truth of how these Avalons can be great used cars. But you also learned, don't trust many garages. They're going to try to sell you the farm whenever you bring your car in for work. This excellent specimen, they wanted $4,000 something worth of work. It's bad enough they charged them $500 to change the fan belt incorrectly and nick the edge so it rubbed on something and putting an idler pulley on. No way is that a $530 job. But then they tried to sell all that other stuff. Shame on those people. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Well, here we go with more recalls on the Land Rovers, not a company known for quality to begin with. And if you know anything about the history of English production, the English have always had problems with electricity and computer systems. Well, on the 2020 and 2021 Land Rover Sport, their tire pressure monitoring system was incorrectly set at the factory so that if your tire pressure gets low, it doesn't warn you. Now, the way it's set is when the pressure gets below 25% of what it's supposed to be, it'll warn you that whatever tires were are low on pressure. So fill them up, right? Well, it doesn't, because they didn't make it right. Like I said, they've always had a problem with electricity. When I was a young mechanic, a lot of the English cars that were called Lucas Electronics, it was an English electronic problem, and everybody called Lucas the Prince of Darkness, because if you're driving an English car at night, a lot of times the electronics went out, the headlights wouldn't work, and you're stuck in the dark. And then often the car won't run either. And they were so bad, you put the flashes on, they wouldn't work either to warn people because there's no electricity left in the car. So That was in the 1960s and 70s. You'd think they'd advance somewhat, but still with their electronics, they're still kind of living in a dark age there in England. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.